Welcome to Verbal Peak Radio, as we give you a verbal image of life. And we are everyday people. I'd like to welcome you all to the show. I know coming up in February, beginning of February, you all are getting ready for the Super Bowl, a game in which people are on a football field, 100 yards, and you have people in the stadium that surrounds it that kind of resembles a bowl. And inside of that bowl, competition, battle, gladiators, warriors go at it to crown the king, the title of the NFL Super Bowl. Who will prevail? Exciting game. Super Bowl is like a holiday in America and actually throughout the world. So everybody get ready, right? But today I want to talk to you about another bowl. It's almost similar instances that took place within the Devil's Punch Bowl in Natchez, Mississippi, where you had over 20,000 freed slaves who were marched into this area, so downhill, and was trapped. They were starved. They couldn't use the restroom. The only thing that these devils gave them was shovels to bury the dead. And they sit and starve these freed slaves. They killed some, and they sat there and watched till they all died. Starvation, disease set in. It was just a wicked sight. And we ask ourselves, who has the heart? Who has the mindset to do such a horrific, a terrible act upon members of the human family? And we're wondering. And it's when you go back and research this, right? Because on this show, Verbal Peak Radio, a lot of the people we talk about, from Mansa Musa to King Negus, NEGUS to some, people go back and research and they say, oh, wow, yeah, it did exist, right? You know, they go Google and they check out the information, and a lot of information that we bring to you all on these topics are very insightful. And I think the people and the guests that's been on the show, especially my recent guest, Brother Cliff, and the insight and information he shared with us. But on this, when you research this information, you have to understand that when human beings who don't die of a natural cause, but they die in agony, and they die inhumanely, and there was no justice served to them for this horrific act, their souls can't rest. Their spirits can't rest, and they cry out for justice some kind of way, because when they died, they put it out in the universe, and they like, I know we're not going to see justice right here at this time, but some way, somehow, someday, we will get our justice for what is being done to us, because we don't have any weapons, we don't have guns, we don't have the rifles to fight back against these people who are destroying us, who are killing us, who are marching us into this punch bowl, and who's taking our lives and laughing at it. But we'll set this prayer out forth for vengeance, to settle what's being done to us, because we know this is not the work of a loving God. Now, this was posted in Mississippi by Daniela Dirienzo, Dirienzo. The deadly history of the infamous site in Mississippi is terrifying but true. Of all the historic sites in Mississippi, few have a past as deadly as the Devil's Punch Bowl in Natchez, according to local legend Pirates once used the scheduled area as both a hideout and a spot to bury their loot. In recent years, the story behind the Devil's Punch Bowl grew increasingly sinister when a mass grave was found in the area. As historians looked into the grisly discovery, they learned that the grave held the bodies of thousands of slaves. As the story unraveled, researchers were faced with an even more terrifying reality. The bodies belonged to slaves who were freed and then imprisoned in concentration camps located in the Devil's Punch Bowl. Now, it's sick. It is sick. It is sick. I mean, the fact that this atrocity could even happen. It's sad, but it's true. These were people who was freed after the Civil War. They were emancipated, so-called, but they were so upset, first, that the South had lost the war. They couldn't stand to see what they deemed as their former slaves, who were really free before they imprisoned them, had gained their right to freedom and to live prosperously as they choose and as they saw fit. They were so enraged that they marched over 20,000 into this kind of wooded area, abyss, and they entrapped them in there, and they all died. And they don't teach this in American history, when this is an American tragedy. I mean, I can't. And then they ask, who could do something like this? And it's like, come on. Haven't you read the footage of all the atrocities that took place within the community, within the black community, by their colonizers? What do you mean, who could do something like this? I mean, this is one that was uncovered. But think about the ones that wasn't uncovered, that was more vicious than this, you know. Oh man, it's ridiculous. I mean, it's so many articles written on this thing. Until, you know, let's put it like this: there'll never be justice for those atrocities. These people that won't get justice. But if you look at these pictures, man, I mean, they dug up these graves, and it's sad, man. Some of these people died with their boots still on. You know, it was ridiculous. And you know, and let me just add this, because it's hard to talk about. To fathom the agony and the pain that human beings went through at the hands of can you call them human beings that would even do something like this? At the hands of monsters. And the sad part about it is they died on their own land. You know, we got to get away from the myth that all blacks that came to America came here on a slave boat. What about the blacks that was already here, that this was their land? And they got to walk around subconsciously knowing it's their land. There's nothing they can do about it. And see all these foreigners and different people and races and faces on their land just, you know, just causing all kind of pollution and all kind of havoc on their land. There's nothing they can do. And all they can do is just sit back and watch. Look, following the end of the Civil War, there was a mass exodus of former slaves from the southern plantation. These men, women, and children migrated north in the hopes of building new lives for themselves. The migration of former slaves was deeply unacceptable to the former Union soldiers who were bitterly disappointed about the outcome of the brutal war and decided to take their revenge. The most brutal example of this was in Natchez, Mississippi. Natchez experienced an enormous influx in its population following the conclusion of the war, with the vast majority of the new inhabitants being former slaves. In response, the local people built an encampment at Devil's Punch Bowl and rounded up all the black people and forced them to enter. Once they were there, they walked off the area and refused to let them out. And look, man, oh my God, these people are sick. Inside the Devil's Punch Bowl, the former slaves endured even more hellish conditions than they had experienced on the brutal southern plantations. Thousands of men, women, and children perished because of exhaustion and starvation. The people there were also struck with serious epidemic of diseases. Don Estes says that thousands of the people there died of smallpox despite the intense suffering of the people inside the encampment. The former soldiers had no compassion and simply gave the men shovels to bury the dead where they had fallen. The conditions became so intensely bad that the former slaves inside would plead with their white guards to let them return to the plantation. They're saying that this atrocity was so horrific to where they had begged, look, we will go back to the plantation. Just let us out this encampment. Let us out. You know, just look, have some dignity, have some pity, have some mercy upon us and free us. But what did the devil say? Wicked soldiers say, no. Y'all gonna die. Y'all gonna die because we lost the war. We want the right to enslave. What are we gonna do without? Really, what they were saying is, what are we gonna do without black people being slaves? Our slaves in the South. You all our economy. Y'all our money. We can't survive without owning y'all. Look how sick that sounds. Look how sick the mindset is. It's ridiculous. And so they like, you know, how can you get into the mind of a psychopath and understand their reasoning and their logic? And you can't, because there is none. You sick to even believe that you can own a human being, and then you even sicker that once that human being receives their freedom, you upset that they are free, so since you can't slave them, you rather kill them. But that's sick. You know? Since we coming up on Black History Month, we got to talk about subjects like this, and I'll keep bringing you subjects and topics such as this so you can understand what took place, and you can do your work in your studies and build yourself up to make sure things like this never happens again. We put out Everyday People, the movie, which is on YouTube. Go and check that out. Subscribe. Watch that for Black History Month. It's tailored towards Black history discussions for the youth. Any age can watch it. It's not too far out there to where you can't sit down and enjoy it with your family. Once again, that's Everyday People, the movie. You got to put all that in the search. Everyday People, the movie, to get ours and sit back and watch and enjoy it. And it's on YouTube. Matter of fact, it was released today. But I want you all to go and research and see what took place and talk to the people. Which I had the privilege of talking to someone from Natchez, Mississippi, and he said that the orange trees, beautiful orange trees that grows now within that Devil's Punch Bowl area, actually they grow in the Devil's Punch Bowl. He say black people won't even eat them. They come from out of there because they know that those trees were grown from the dirt of blood-soaked soil of their own people, and they don't eat those oranges coming out of Mississippi, out of the devil's punch bowl. Whew. I thank the Most High God for allowing me to make it through this topic to share with y'all, because this was a tough one to discuss. I thank him for allowing me to finish this subject. Vero Peak Radio, we're out.